Hello everyone, this is Team Alpha Tampa to introduce our article critique for article number 38, How Leaders Embed and Transmit Culture by Edgar Schein. This article begins with a strong, attention-grabbing introduction which discusses the idea of charisma being the key to communicating organizational culture from leaders. We like that this article focuses on the internal processes of individuals and how, when they are manifested, affect those around them. We find the idea that subordinates will continue to run the organization around or in spite of an inconsistent leader to be powerful. We like that the article directly confronts issues of leadership and that those subjected to inconsistencies must adapt in order to continue furthering the processes of the organization. The article is extremely thorough as it describes the different stages of use for the primary embedding mechanisms. The chart which is provided is not very necessary and doesn't add clarity or insight because all of these mechanisms are listed as subheadings with their own individual sections. We also found that there are listing errors in which commas are not used on every third item within this chart. For what leaders pay attention to, measure, and control on a regular basis, the examples given in this section are very effective in showing the difference that listening and asking for input from lower levels has in creating a positive, progressive culture. We agree that many signals come from meetings involving planning both short and long-term goals. We agree with the argument on emotional reactions and how they can be perceived, particularly with the examples for the section on non-reactions to crises. Overall, this delivers applicable information to the reader. For how leaders react to critical incidents and organizational crises, we like the emphasis which is put on learning about crises and how these shape the culture of an organization. We also applaud the idea of the definition of a crisis being left up to the one who perceives it. By leaving it up to interpretation, this is the most accurate way to define what a crisis is, as it varies with each individual. The example from IBM for this section is in support of their point of learning from a crisis, but it is not very often that you will find someone remain in their position after a decision which one makes cost a company millions of dollars. I agree with the article's stance that crises tell a lot about the leader's human nature and focus on relationships. For observed criteria by which leaders allocate scarce resources, we believe that this is a very relevant section of the article, as it speaks to financial allocations within a business. Money is far and away one of the most important and controversial resources in a business. It tells exactly where the company's mindset is and creates the heart of the organizational culture. We do feel like the example and information given here does not focus on the key point of financial allocation, though. It also feels slightly outdated, as it is from 1985 and mentions a move to a more centralized structure. For deliberate role modeling, teaching, and coaching, the author does a great job in analyzing the importance of informal actions of leaders as viewed by subordinates. These are the actions taken every day to show a personal concern for not only the firm, but the individuals who make it what it is. I think that the large use of examples are necessary to illustrate the varying ways in which a manager can apply these aspects every day. For observed criteria by which leaders allocate rewards and status, the article continues to preach consistency across which items are given in order to establish a company culture. The point made on the nature of the behavior which elicits reward or punishment is vital to understanding the leader himself. The one negative remark we have is that the wording gets slightly unclear in sections, but the content overall is nice. For observed criteria by which leaders recruit, select, promote, retire, and excommunicate organizational members, the section brings many interesting theories and questions when analyzing the way that leaders hire and search out potential employees. We find the idea of using a search firm and how it takes away bias important. We would like to know the percentage of firms which use outside channels like this in their hiring process. Once again, the author makes sure that we keep in mind the consistency and fluidity of using the same framework for also promoting and firing employees. We find that this is difficult at times due to internal and external forces at play. We do not think that this gives much insight into how this can work at the mid to lower levels, but that its focus is strictly with upper level management. Moving into the secondary articulation and reinforcement mechanisms, the ideas presented here make sense in an applicable nature. Although we may not always recognize these mechanisms consciously, they reinforce the values and beliefs of leadership in an organization. It is important that it mentions how these play into the growth of an organization as well. Beginning with organization design and structure, we believe that the nature of this section is straightforward, but it leaves us begging for more in terms of examples and explanation on certain items. We believe that this shows the essence of society when it mentions the knowledge of founders and how they essentially had the best ideas on design and structure. We wonder how often these ideas are questioned and the possibility of change in these established organizations. For organizational systems and procedures, the article gives credit to all types of managers regardless of their initial goals and ways of doing things. We agree with the questioning of time cycles as to why they are set up in this fashion. We wonder why each company feels that one way works best for them. For the rites and rituals of organization, we agree that companies should have its own rituals, keeping the ones from the past and also adding new ones as they develop. Rituals can come in forms of motivational meetings, weekly happy hour for employees, and even company sporting events on the weekends. We believe that this creates a favorable environment for its employees to bond, and it also sends a message that although we work hard, we also know how to play and have fun. With the design of physical space, facades, and building, the article mentions how the physical space affects how the manager's message is sent and how it's received. We as a group agree on this point of view. From the building's design to its inside wall colors, it's all sending a message to workers. We believe that performance and appearance are correlative, and in this case, the physical space reflects the company's style of work. For stories about important events and people, after some time in an organization, groups start having their own stories, and how these are transmitted to newcomers can affect their view of the job itself. Managers tend to be more noticed in their stories than their actions at times, and they want people to tell good stories about them. Our group agrees that people are always going to tell stories, especially to newcomers. Therefore, our advice is to act and manage how you want people to talk about you. And also, managers shouldn't worry too much, as bosses aren't usually everyone's favorite person. Formal statements of organizational creeds and charters. With this, we agree that this only accounts for a very small portion of the leader's assumptions as a whole, and they are not widely even direct reflections of the leader, as these have been around for decades. We thought that the author did well to keep this portion short and sweet. For summary and conclusion, the article's main focus is to analyze how leaders embed the assumptions that they hold to create cultures. We wonder how different it is for new companies to create a culture than it was for these older companies. The examples used in the article are mainly for managers, but subordinates should also learn all of these mechanisms in order to be aware of what the company is trying to deliver and what kind of company culture the manager is trying to establish. The article does a great job by distinguishing managers from leaders, and it states that when a manager uses the 6 mechanisms in the article, this manager is becoming a leader himself. To give a final critique, as mentioned throughout the video, we believe that these mechanisms are applicable to real-life situations, and are adequately displayed through the plethora of examples within the article. This comes together to provide a 360-degree view of how each mechanism works. However, the article is repetitive at times in its analysis of each mechanism. The same results occur for each, but this may just be used to reinforce the importance of consistency. It also adds a section of rites and rituals, which is important, but it is not initially recognized in the table of secondary mechanisms given at the start of each article. As always, we hope that you have enjoyed this article review and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.